I've watched the Annabelle movie like 2 or 3 times in the last week or so. The Conjuring a few times. Because there's only a select few on Netflix. I've just rewatched it while I played my game.
We have very different... You know how they say, like, if you watch a specific series, you have a comfort series that you always go to, or your comfort series is, like, just horror movies.
I know, and, like, Resident Evil is another movie series that I love watching.
Like, I watch Modern Family.
No, that's not comforting to me.
I loved Teletubbies when I was little. I had a Lala doll.
Is Lala the yellow one?
Yes.
No, just Tinky Winky's the big, scary purple one.
Oh, my cousin had that one.
That was such a weird show.
Thinking back on it, yes, very. But those pancakes always look so freaking good. I always wanted to freaking try one of those pancakes.
I just wanted a TV on my tummy. But now, logistically, how would that work?
Not so well. Unless you would like to replace your womb with, like, I don't know, internet cables. I don't know how it would work. I don't know biochemistry. Not biochemistry.
The least useful organ.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not, because it can
but I mean
life,
for us, for me anyway, it's most useless for me.
Well, no, I'm also just thinking situationally, like, what would you rather get rid of if you want it in your stomach?
Well, I mean, like, the liver's pretty big.
God, take away your whole liver, you drink too much.
Shh, don't tell my mom. Oh my.
Your dad already is shocked enough by your tattoo. Your second one.
I love that he's like the first person to comment.
It's just emojis.
I literally went to the tattoo artist. I'm like, you see, my dad's the first one to comment and he's unhappy.
I just love the fact that it was just emojis.
Because he's saying everything I know that he's saying to those 2 emojis.
But you know your mom got the full lowdown on what exactly he meant by those emojis.
Yes, exactly.
I don't even know your parents, but I know that's what happened.
And I can hear my mom say, just leave her, just let her, just don't get involved, because that's always her thing. She's like, just don't get involved. Oh, it's like he forgets that I'm 30. Like, I'm an adult and I can do what I want, Dad.
Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry that the worst thing I've done in my life is get a tattoo.
And he's fine with your nose rings and stuff.
No, when I came home with a nose ring, I opened the door for him and he like looked, he's like, what's that in your nose? And I'm like, it's a nose ring. And he was very like, with me. And then he got over it. I was like, jeez, Dad.
And the second one?
And then I got that and I got, yeah, he just gave up after a while.
Okay. But he's going to give up with the tattoos as well, eventually. Now we're on even. Like, we both have 2.
Yay.
Oh. We haven't said what this is. I was just going to say, like, my story today.
I thought you were going to start singing.
That wouldn't be uncharacteristic, though.
But you're like, ooh, yeah. Song.
What songs are
I don't know. I've been listening to a lot of Fall Out Boy the last 2-3 days. While I was playing the computer game, I was just like listening to that, and then all old nostalgia music. Nostalgia. How old am I? Fall Out Boy. 2008's music is nostalgia for me.
I've never really listened to Fall Out Boy that much, but I'm sure I like them.
They're fun.
Yeah,
very punk.
Do they just sing that? Da, 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 da. No, they always sing that.
What?
Da, 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 da.
Oh, Sugar We're Going Down, yeah.
Okay, cool. I have a vague idea. I don't know the words, so I can only, like, slightly hum the melody.
Well, on that note...
I'm Chanelle.
And I'm Kristin.
And this is Law and Omen.
A true crime and paranormal podcast.
I thought you were going to say age restricted.
Well, yes. I am restricted by my age. I had sore shoulders earlier today, and I was like, why? And I realized it's because I was knitting so much yesterday. I forgot that it hurts your muscles in your shoulders so much.
I can't knit. Well, so I take my hat off to you.
I'll knit you a hat to take off.
This is called a beanie.
I can call it what I want. I think one with a brim. Knit a brim. Then it's like a proper hat, like a trilby.
A trilby?
Yes, knit a trilby. What? With the hat? I don't know. They said it on my dad wrote it on.
Full circle.
Yeah, like a hat.
I was picturing like a bucket hat. A knitted bucket hat.
I mean, okay. With your name around it.
Oh gosh. That's weird.
So, hi.
Hi. Shall we begin?
Why
it's
not?
Like 34 minutes deep.
Jeez, that's actually short. Last time we had like an hour of bands.
I know, but like then you need to edit a fuck ton. So I feel for you. Yeah. So are you ready to listen to a pretty terrible case?
Yay.
Before I begin, let me just say my little disclaimer. I mean no harm or ill will towards anyone I speak about. This is the information I gathered on the case and will state when something is my opinion or fact. A full list of sources will be available in the show notes. So this is the case of Brett Goldin and Richard Bloom. Brett Goldin was a 28-year-old man. He was a talented young actor that was on the rise to fame or success. He was described as being good-natured and kind-hearted. He had many friends and was loved immensely. At the time of this case, he was days away from flying to the UK to perform in Hamlet at the Royal Shakespeare Theatre. So, yeah, a really, really good actor.
Yeah.
If you're going to the UK
to
perform in a Shakespeare play, that's pretty big.
True thespian.
Yes, exactly. It was also mentioned that he wrote scripts too. Yeah, so, and he was really good at that as well. So as you can tell, he was definitely on his way to stardom. Richard Bloom was Brett's friend. He was a 27-year-old, again, extremely talented person. He was a fashion designer, also both in like the arts, you know. Yeah. At the time of this case, he worked for a clothing company called Nays. I don't know what that clothing company is. I'm not 100% sure how to spell it because this specific information I got from my trustworthy Crimes Uncovered on Demand Africa, but it was on Mnet first. Yeah, so he worked as a label manager for this clothing company called Nays. He was in a long-term relationship with his partner Brian Hellman, who was, or is, I'm not sure if he is still, a clinical psychologist with the Department of Correctional Services.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's quite a combination.
Yeah. So they had been together for a little more than 5 years at this point already. Yeah. Really long-term partner. Brian said that in time he learned to be positive and optimistic through Richard's outlook in life. Richard was a very optimistic person and always just saw the good in people, and he was a glass half full type of guy. And people genuinely loved him, and he always, like I said, saw the good in others. So on Saturday the 15th of April 2006, both Brett and Richard were at a friend's dinner party. They were invited to Craig Port's house in Camps Bay. Craig was Richard's boss at Nays, so Brian, which is Richard's boyfriend, couldn't attend the dinner, so then Richard asked Brett if he'd like to join him. So he said yes. I mean, it was at a mansion, I think, it was in Camps Bay, so... Yeah. But it was a big, nice man, and they were all friends. I think all of them knew each other, and the party was also kind of held for the return of mutual friends from the UK.
And I imagine if you were in that situation, you'd be like, free food at Camps Bay? Hell yes.
That's what I wanted to say as well. Like, definitely.
You know that's going to be some good food.
Count me in. Exactly.
Little gourmet.
Spirits were high on the night, and there was much to celebrate. Brett would be starring in Hamlet at the Royal Shakespeare Theatre, as I said, and Richard was about to release a new clothing line.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Both Brett and Richard decided to call it a night pretty early on. They were the first to leave at around midnight, which to me seems like really late.
I was thinking that's like really hard to do sometimes, especially if you're like really into hanging out with everyone.
Yes.
And you're not exceptionally tired. Like, to be the first people to leave is quite a feat. I'm sure you do it all the time.
No, I would prefer, if I was not dating Patrick, I would be living my best life as a ghoster. I would just leave the party.
You'd be like Alison, just French exit all the time.
French exit all the way. I would just slip out the back. Goodbye. But, yeah, I wouldn't say Patrick makes a thing of it, but we definitely go and say goodbye to people.
No, you mean he's polite. Okay.
Yeah. Not to everyone.
No.
I don't feel like to everyone. And there's exceptions, I guess, like family and whatever, but...
I mean, at the tattoo shop the other day, I went and I put all my stuff in the car and I packed everything away. I went back in and I went from the back and I said bye to everyone before I left.
Yeah. I'll say goodbye, but like I'll say goodbye in like into the air as I leave. Like,
I see.
Bye!
No, I was like, I said bye to you and hug you and like, hey, it was nice meeting you. It was cool getting to know you. Bye to everyone.
That's a lot for me.
I think it's because my parents forced me to do that at every family gathering. Okay. You have to say goodbye to every family member and hug them goodbye to everyone.
Yeah, I had to hug and kiss on the mouth.
Oh, ew. No.
People that I didn't even know.
Ew.
So I think I'm traumatized by that, and now I do like the exact opposite.
Oh, no, I'm so glad my parents never made me kiss people. Like, old ladies maybe kiss you on the cheek or, you know, whatever, like the old aunties. But that was it. No one kissed me on the mouth. That's gross.
Yeah, so they would leave around midnight. The next morning, Brett had made plans to meet his mom so that they can work through the UK papers together or for his trip.
Okay.
I don't know. Like maybe just they met for brunch.
Yeah.
Brett's mom, Denise, was sitting at the Winchester Hotel waiting for Brett to join her for brunch, but he was late. Something that was very uncharacteristic of him. She said she just had a feeling of complete and utter dread when he didn't show up after she had been waiting for him for what probably felt like forever. Then she received a call. It was Brett's bank asking after his whereabouts.
A bank? That's random.
And that's when she contacted Brian, which is Richard's partner. So she obviously knew that Brett and Richard had gone to the party together, so she figured, let me contact Brian. Yeah. Brian, Richard's partner, had also not heard from Richard since the previous night, and he decided to go to Richard's flat to see if he could find him there. The flat was empty. Richard also said he just knew something bad had happened. Like in the documentary that I watched, or the episode on Crimes Uncovered, he said he doesn't know if it was like a spiritual connection or a divine intervention or whatever, but he just knew something wasn't right. And it's something that he said, his mom has also said, and later on his sister will also say. So it's just weird how they were obviously like just a very connected group, you know, And so he rushed over to Denise, and together they went to the police station to file a missing persons report for the two men. Photos of the two men were distributed to all surrounding police stations. Denise had to call Brett's father to let him know that he's missing, and he had made plans to take the next flight to Cape Town. So I think, I'm not sure if they were or are still married, but I think both of them, I know Denise was in Joburg or lives in Joburg, so I think he probably was also living in Joburg. Brett's sister, Sam, said that when she was told Brett was missing, she just knew he was dead. Almost like she couldn't feel or connect to him anymore. Oh, wow. And that was before she's called that he was dead.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
When she heard that he was missing, she just knew he was dead.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, so they really are very close.
Yeah. Brett and Richard's friends, over 100 of them, gathered outside the Camps Bay police station where they were adamant on starting a search party.
Who has that many friends?
I don't know. But I'm assuming it's like work colleagues and acquaintances, because I just thought to myself, 100 friends.
I can't imagine like 20 people coming out to help for me.
No, not friends. Like
anyone.
Well, I'll be one of those 20. But yeah.
Imagine being that popular.
That would be so draining. I would not want that.
I know, I was just going to say, imagine having the stamina for such a social life.
You'd have to talk to people every single day. So, over 100 people, friends, gathered outside the Camps Bay police station, where they were adamant on starting a search party. And that started a close to 30-hour search for the two men. 30 hours. They went all the way to the Llandudno beach. And by the end of Sunday night, nothing had been found. On Monday morning, though, the terrible news would be broken to the men's families. Both Richard Bloom and Brett Golding were found murdered. Their bodies had been found in a clearing next to a highway. They had been shot executioner style and were found naked, only wearing their socks.
Oh no.
No one could even comprehend why this would happen. Like I said, they were good people. They had 100 friends. You know what I mean? Like, that's the type of people that they were. Ow! Nix! Oh my God.
I wish that was funny.
I'm glad it's not. Yeah.
I'm so sorry about my cat.
No, it's not your fault.
It's
also not.
No,
it's not their fault. Like, she's seeing something move, so she wants to go for it.
Hey, next you can have this. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm happy to play with it, just as long as my legs aren't the scratching pole.
Oh yes, I want to ask, I don't know if it comes in later, why did the bank then get in contact? Does that have to do with anything? Because the bank wanting to get in contact with you is very unusual.
I think I'll mention it.
Okay.
They never clarified exactly, but I think I understand why the bank might have. The men who actually had the answers ready on that Monday morning were already in the Camps Bay police station on different charges. Okay. 25-year-old Siobhan Marley, 23-year-old Clinton Davids, and another 23-year-old Ramiz Saeed. They were arrested on Sunday morning at around 5 a.m. So a man had been feeling uneasy when he noticed a vehicle had been following behind him. He was in his BMW and there was a car following close behind him. He got a feeling that he was about to be hijacked, basically. He spotted police nearby while he was driving and he decided to raise the alarm for help. So the vehicle behind him, the one that was following him, was pulled over and the men were asked to get out. Ramiz and Siobhan were cuffed and put into the back of the police vehicle as a precaution because both of them seemed intoxicated, or all three of them. Clinton was kept by the vehicle to supervise, basically look while they're searching the car. Because you have to have someone present there. The police can't just... You have to be able to look at what they're doing as well. So the police searched the car and found a credit card with the name B. Golding on it. So I think that maybe they try to use it perhaps, or whatever. They never specifically mentioned in the articles that I read or in the episodes that I watched. They never specifically mentioned anything, but I think
that might have... departments of the bank would be like, there's unusual activity, and have you authorized it, I suppose.
Exactly.
Okay, makes sense.
They also found 1,040 rand in cash and 1 bullet. So the guys that were in the car were arrested for loitering. I don't really know what loitering is exactly.
Isn't it just like hanging
lewd
around?
Behavior.
Because because on shops and stuff it says no loitering and stuff. It's like people hanging around there, like, not begging, but like being a nuisance. I don't know.
So I'm sure they were also charged on like probably drunken driving and things like that.
I suppose in that situation the cops gonna throw whatever they can to hold you until they can find out stuff.
And they were taken to the Camps Bay police station. So it seemed like Siobhan and Ramiz were intimidated or scared of Clinton. And they didn't speak in his presence. Like, only when he left, they kind of spoke to each other. And they came to find out that Clinton's brother, Ishan Marcus, was a boss in the Cape Townian gang, the Americans.
I thought like 28 or something when you said they were scared. I was like...
So very high-ranking guy, I guess. I don't exactly know how that works.
It's so weird that like your gang, the Americans, and it's so
and
weird.
it's in South Africa.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder why. Oh no, I don't wonder why. I don't want to wonder why, but I do wonder why they call themselves the Americans. Like, what
I don't know. Maybe it's like...
Do you like fried chicken? Or burgers?
Or freedom? Freedom, guns, and the American flag.
Abnormally large portion sizes.
Heart disease, diabetes.
Donald Trump.
No, but maybe it's because, like, America is seen as this, like, high standard, you know, like, they're a great world power and stuff. It's like, okay.
Yeah, I think that narrative is also changing slowly but surely.
Yes.
They kept their silence at first and did not reveal any information to the police. According to one of the police officers, Inspector Fourie, he noticed that 2 of the suspects were still under the influence of Tuk when he was conducting their interrogation.
You should explain for the foreigners.
Tuk is like an amphetamine.
Methamphetamine? No, it's just an amphetamine.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
I was like looking at you
I'm
like...
not a drug user, I don't know.
Nor am I. But like I have had to study it a little bit with my degree.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like an amphetamine that causes... What's the American one for this?
Meth, isn't it?
No. I think it's crystal.
Oh, crystal
almost
meth.
Quickly. I'm not 100% sure anymore.
What are we with the American Tuk?
Just say Tuk.
Ooh, Tuk.
Just say Tuk.
TikTok.
No, not TikTok.
TikTok, make your day. Crystal meth in Cape Town.
Okay, crystal meth, yeah.
What is Tuk? It's...
Yeah, but it is an amphetamine, that much I know.
How do you spell amphetamine?
I mean, yeah, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, methamphetamine.
Yep.
Tuk.
Oh, methamphetamine.
Yeah.
Oh, you were right. Oh, sorry.
Use and its association with condom use. I don't know, I don't want to know. But yeah, it's an amphetamine.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Anyway, so it's basically...
We're so good at drugs.
That's what I'm saying. We'll see how it goes. But in my...
Oh, but you know this for your studies.
Yeah. Oh. But I get it right. It is an amphetamine.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just don't know the American version of it. Okay, so Tuk makes you... It's an upper, but it also makes you more aggressive. It makes you, I don't know, kind of believe that, you know, you're above everything. Yeah, so they showed signs of being on Tuk. Their pupils were dilated and they were agitated as well. So according to Captain Jenkins, one of the officers on the case, Siobhan's mother and grandfather showed up to the police station where they were being held and encouraged him to tell the truth. So, or his mom specifically told him to tell the truth. He didn't say anything in return, and that's when apparently his grandfather hit him over the head twice. And he just broke down into tears and said that he'd be going away to prison for a very long time because he was an accomplice. That's when Captain Jenkins stepped in and informed Siobhan that anything he say can and will be used against him in a court of law, and that's when Siobhan agreed to tell him the story. On the night of the 15th of April, the men were celebrating Siobhan's birthday at a club in the CBD. Siobhan, Clinton, and 2 other men, Jane Weingaard, 19, and Nishad Davidshad, 18, yeah, that's how I found it, left the club intoxicated, and they decided that they wanted to steal a car.
That's so young.
As you do. Like, they're so young. The other guy is 25, 23, and then 19 and 18. Yeah, so... They wanted to steal a car, and that's when they spotted Brett and Richard on the side of the road, and they were walking towards their car. Clinton told the men that they should rob them. So I also saw in a few of the articles that I read that it could have been a gang initiation as well, and I don't think that they would have necessarily disclosed that part in their statement, because all of them would give a statement at the end. So, to me, it could be. It just seems so opportunistic, which I think a lot of gang initiations are. I don't know. I don't belong to a gang, but I think a lot of it is. Obviously, there's also the clashes between the gangs, but I mean, I think just there's so many ways. I think, as I understand it, like you get points to go up in ranking.
Okay.
There's a really, really, really cool Netflix documentary, or like a show, that's called, I think, World's Toughest Prisons, or Into the World of Toughest Prisons. But
I saw that bald dude.
No.
Oh. He had a show called I think.
Maybe no. This guy's name is Raphael.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah. There was a different guy doing it at first, and then this guy took over. But basically, he travels around the world and goes into different prisons and spends like, I don't know, a couple of days there, depending on where he goes. And I think in the latest season, he went to one of the South African jails. I don't think it's Bosmoor, but it could be, but I don't think it is. But anyway, he went to South African prison. And one of the numbers gang members, told him a little bit about how it works. And you get like tasks to do to rise up in the ranks. And it can be something like stabbing a prison guard or, I don't know, whatever. And I didn't disclose this fact. This is on Netflix. I'm just scared. But
and that's just in the prison system itself, not outside. So then I suppose it's like to keep yourself busy. Prison.
Yeah, I think also... I think you are only a number when you are in prison.
Okay. Makes sense.
I think. I'm not 100%
like sort of
sure.
earn your badge.
I'm not 100% sure, but I think you go out and then you're in a different gang. Or maybe the gangs go on. No, I'm sure they go on. The gangs go on.
What are you talking about?
No, I'm sure they must, like, be outside of prison as well.
Yeah, I think they must be.
Yeah, they must.
I mean, because they recruit young kids and stop stuttering, because they recruit young kids and stuff into the gang.
Maybe I should look at that as a story. I think that would be very interesting. Thanks.
Also, you do look like a chola.
Yeah, I know. My little
like button all the way to the top.
I always feel like I look. This might be taken the wrong way, so just cut it out. I feel like I look Mexican.
You look like a chola. Yeah, it's those girls with the very thin blonde eyes. They're like with the thing, and they're like, "What is it? You're talking to me? I mean, a gang is it?" Oh, okay. Sorry. Shut up, Kristin.
No. Once again, I think it was me that derailed us. Okay, so Clinton told the men that they should rob them. There's another guy in the car, Jade Reinhardt, handed Clinton a 9mm semi-automatic pistol. Clinton and Siobhan approached Brett and Richard with a gun, and not long afterwards, Jade and Nushad came and forced the men, Brett and Richard, into the back of the BMW that they were driving. They searched them and found the car keys on Richard, and Richard pointed towards his VW Polo that was parked nearby. Clinton and Nushad took the car. They also found Brett's car keys for his Peugeot, but decided to hang on to the keys but keep the car parked there where it was, so they just left it there. Siobhan and Jade drove the BMW with Brett and Richard in the back. They left the Camps Bay area and started driving towards Table Mountain Nature Reserve. It's so weird, like, picturing these places, because living in Cape Town, so vividly where it is.
And the fact that it's a nature reserve, which is like tranquil.
Yeah, it's supposed to be serene and peaceful.
And protected.
Yes, exactly. They stopped at a small gravel parking area on the road leading to the cable station on Table Mountain. This is where the men forced Brett and Richard to get undressed. Their clothes were taken and thrown off the side of the mountain. According to Captain Kenneth Speed, the plan originally was that they would leave the men there so that they could get away, quote-unquote, safely. So this is a little excerpt from the statement of Marley and Davids. They were then left wearing only their socks, and most of their clothes were discarded off the mountainside in order to delay the deceased raising immediate alarm, Marley and Davids said in their statements. Weinhardt said Clinton Davids asked him to help tie up the victims, but Weinhardt's cell phone started ringing and a shot from the semi-automatic pistol went off by accident. The gun was handed to Clinton Davids, quote, anticipating that the discharge of the firearm would lead to immediate alarm being raised and or the immediate arrival of the police. It was then decided that the deceased should rather be left somewhere else, they said.
But they weren't deceased then?
No, but they were talking about the deceased in their statements. Yes.
Okay. Oh, right, of course, yes.
Clinton was furious and took the gun from Jade and then told him and Nushad to leave, and they decided they would all meet back at Nushad's house in Crawford to formulate a plan there. So Brett and Richard were then tied together, like they mentioned in the statement, and forced into the boot of the Polo. On their way to Nishad's house, Siobhan and Clifton decided... Oh, not Clifton, Clinton. I don't give a fuck what his name is, though. They decided that they would drop Richard and Brett off along the M5 highway. So they drove onto the pavement and then into a clearing where they stopped. And then the Polo got stuck. And, yeah, while they were in the clearing, there was, like, grass and sand and what have you. Brett and Richard were then led out of the boot and told to start pushing the car. But to no avail. They were then told to lay face down on the ground, and Clinton then gave Siobhan the gun and instructed him to shoot the men if they made any noise or attempted to get away, while he, Clinton, wedged the rear parcel shelf of the car underneath the front wheels for traction.
Okay.
I don't know what
what that means.
I really don't know.
Sounds like he's been stuck before.
Yeah. So then either Brett or Richard decided to scream for help, and that's when Siobhan fired 2 shots, killing the men right then and there.
Oh, that's so sad.
Then Siobhan phoned 2 friends to come and help them move the vehicle. One friend refused to help, but he dropped off the other friend, Zubare Davids.
That's just... to go to the scene of an obvious crime and just drop someone off to help.
Yeah.
You could have gone to the police, you know.
Exactly.
And no one, maybe they would have known it was either one of the two.
Yeah, exactly. Like, all good and well you said, no, you're not going to help with this, but
you knew it happened.
Go and tell someone, you know. Zubar Davids was dropped at Nishad's house. There, Zubar asked for a shovel, a tow rope, and the keys to the BMW. He then drove to the crime scene, but when they tried to tow the Polo with the rope he brought, it snapped. So they cut out the seatbelts of the Polo to use instead.
Seriously?
Yeah. They towed the Polo back to Nishad's house in Crawford. There the 3 met up with another man, Ramiz Samid. This is a familiar name because I mentioned it at the top of the story. And 2 others.
So many people involved in this.
I think 11 people were originally arrested before, like, the final few were singled out.
Yeah. And, like, you didn't need to shoot them. If they're making noise, knock them with the butts of the gun, you know?
Yeah.
Just something to intimidate them to shush. You don't have to kill them immediately when they make a sound.
Yeah, but I think they were going to kill them.
Yeah, I suppose.
I think that was the plan from the beginning. That's when Clinton, Siobhan, and Ramiz... Someone's birthday.
You should have heard them the night before the public holiday.
Oh, really?
These people were having a party. And then I said to Bas at like 9 o'clock, I'm so glad these people are quiet now. It's like, come on, we should be the young people partying in the neighborhood. And we're on the couch like, I'm so glad these people are done partying.
Thank God the music stopped.
It's so bad. Every time, because his neighbor, like, he always plays things like Simply Red really loud from his car. And every time he comes by, I start singing with him. I'm like, come on, shut up that song. And I'm like, how old am I? Yes, you mother. So hot.
So Clinton, Siobhan, and Ramiz left the house and drove back to Camps Bay to go and get Brett's car, the Peugeot that they left there earlier. And from there, well, you know what happened. All men, they were then pulled over by the police. So all men pleaded guilty and entered into plea bargains almost immediately. Like, they were silent at first, but I think as soon as one started cracking, they all kind of knew that
and I suppose
this was their best option.
Yeah, I suppose in that situation, if you don't tell your story, someone could blame it on you, so you have to give your side.
Jade Weinhardt and Nishad Davids were sentenced to 15 years in prison, 3 of them suspended. Zubar Davids and Yasid Hussain. Yasid was the guy who said, who dropped off Zubar, but said he's not going to participate.
Isn't the same vinegar?
Yeah, but it's not spelled the same.
Okay.
Yeah, his surname is spelled Essyn. Yeah, that one is Asyn.
Okay. I know Afrikaans.
Zubair Davids and Yasir Yassain were sentenced to 2 years in prison on condition they give evidence against Clinton and Siobhan. Clinton and Siobhan were sentenced to 28 years in prison and would be eligible for parole in 2020.
Ooh. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Clinton Davids' brother is Shard Davids, who we know is the gangster American boss, who is alleged to lead the Americans gang. Alleged. Also appeared in court in connection with alleged threats to kill 3 of the others in the case if his brother is found guilty. DA spokesperson MP James Self said the sentence handed down to Davids was inappropriately lenient, given the nature of the crime for which he was convicted. Under the circumstances, it is equally shocking that this offender has applied for parole. So he first applied for parole in 2011 already. Like 5 years after. Go fuck yourself. Like, honestly.
Sure.
What gives you any inclination that you'd be let out?
Yeah.
After a grueling 8-hour parole hearing, during which Golding's mother, Denise, came face-to-face with Nushad Davids, his parole was refused. The Western Cape Correctional Services spokesperson said the parole board had deemed the parole application premature. In terms of the law, he has to serve 2/3 of his sentence before he could be eligible for parole. He will only be eligible on the 25th of November 2014. In 2014, 12 years after the murder of Brett and Richard, Nushad Davids and Jane Weinhardt were released on parole. So, yeah, this wasn't the guy who committed the crime. And so just to be clear, the Davids that the DA spokesperson spoke about, the sentence that he said was inappropriately lenient, was for Clinton Davids. Okay. The one who was there when the guys were killed and, like, he was, you know, instrumental. The guy that has the brother in the gang. So in 2004, 12 years after the murders of Brett and Richard, Nushad Davids and Jane Weinhardt were released on parole, but they were confined to house arrest. Okay. So they can only find jobs and stuff that happen during daytime hours, and they have to be back home by nightfall. Yeah, so Nushad Davids and Jane Weinhardt weren't really involved. You know, they weren't too involved with the murder per se. Police spokesperson said that the pair had participated in a rehabilitation program. Quote, "We are very satisfied with their progress and somewhat optimistic they won't reoffend." Now that really bothered me. Somewhat. Like, I understand you can't 100% be sure of someone not reoffending, but somewhat's just such a flaky word to me. Like, yes. Why would you as a spokesperson say that to the public? Yeah. And how do you say that to their mothers? You know what I mean?
Like, I've said I'm somewhat hungry and then finished half a pizza. Like, somewhat doesn't mean anything, really. No. And for such a serious offense, you can't. Somewhat means you have no faith in that they are rehabilitated.
So, carrying on with that quote, the department is focused on rehabilitation rather than about locking people up and throwing away the key. All offenders come from society and go back to society. The parole conditions included that the men refrain from alcohol and drug abuse. They can only seek employment, like I said, during the day and must return home at night. Denise said the family respected the parole board's decision, and she, quote, end quote, now quote Denise, "We lodged objections at each of the parole hearings. We did object, but this time we weren't heard. We have no control over it. We have to put our trust in the parole board." She said that the family hoped that Davids and Weinhardt had been successfully rehabilitated and would, quote-unquote, make something good of their lives. She also said the pain of losing a child had not diminished with time. She said, "It's not easy. The more time goes on, the more you miss your loved ones." She also said in the Crimes Uncovered documentary that she was talking to her daughter about this. Like, they're not the same people they were than before this, and she specifically said that a piece of her died the day her son died, and she's just not the same person that she was. And that's the sad thing. Like, not only did you take, and this is what we always say, not only did you take away a life, but you've completely discarded the feelings of the people closest to that person and what they are going to go through for the rest of their lives. You know, you've caused so much trauma along the line that you should, in actuality, not only be sentenced for the murder of that person, you should also be sentenced for the emotional and sometimes financial stress and burden that you placed on other people unfairly.
True, very true. And I mean, the one had a partner that was left without their partner after this.
Exactly.
So now you've got to deal with that big loss, someone you've been with for 5 years.
Exactly.
That's terrible, man. And for what? You know?
To steal a fucking car.
I mean, they could have just left them on the side of the road.
Exactly.
Would they be able to identify them? You know,
but they were high on Tokai as well.
Oh,
they also said in their interrogations that they'd been coming off of like a 5-day drug binge or a few-day drug binge. I don't know exactly how many days because I didn't write it down, but they had been doing the drugs for more than one day. You know what I mean? Yeah, so one good thing, I guess, to come out of it is shortly after Golding's murder, the Baxter Theatre in Cape Town and the Royal Shakespeare Company and the Actors Centre in Johannesburg founded the Brett Goldin Bursary Fund in his memory. Yeah.
Oh, that's so sad, man. And, like, you can't guarantee that people are going to be rehabilitated. And like you say, he was under house arrest and stuff. Who's actually keeping an eye on him?
Yeah, that's the thing.
You know, like adhering to those rules. There's so much of a backlog in the system. Who's really going to be paying attention?
I always hope that people can be rehabilitated, but I believe it takes a lot of work and a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy. Like, a lot of people have to have a hand in the pie and molding someone back up again because they were probably destroyed as a young child, you know, and it takes a lot to build up a new person at the end of the day because your mind has been skewed by all the trauma that you've gone through and the way that you've been living life that you can't see another way. And I think it takes a lot to unlearn things, you know, especially behaviors that you're not even aware of. And I think it becomes so second nature when you are trapped in that cycle of violence and cycle of impoverishedness, but also the unfairness of our society and what's happened in the past, you know. That you're kind of you're stuck, and I'm not saying that everyone like must just get a free pass, and you definitely choose your life as well. You make choices in your life, but sometimes when you're only surrounded by darkness, you can't help but fall into darkness, you know what I mean? I'm hoping that, because these were the two youngsters, the 18 and 19-year-olds, so I'm hoping that maybe they weren't too deep into it already, you know?
I was thinking earlier when you said like the one is 25, right, the oldest one, so they're also under that influence of someone older.
Exactly, because there's quite a big difference between a 25-year-old and an 18, 19-year-old. Exactly.
Yeah. People are just stop hurting people.
Yeah, honestly.
Just don't. That's so sad.
Do you need a refill in one?
Yes. I'm sad now.
Oh, fuck. The chaos continues.
Yeah, it never stops. Hi, Penny! So I searched through a few stories and then I saw this one. It's very brief, but we're used to nothing else from me. So this is a Tokai Manor house that's in Cape Town. During the late 1600s, the land that Tokai Manor now stands on would have been part of Governor Simon van der Stel's Constantia estate. The farm was originally granted to Johann Andreas Rauch in 1792. Rauch was chief of the armory and head caretaker of the Grote Schuur estate. In the next 2 months, the property was sold to Andries Thewes. The manor was most likely built between 1795 and 1796. It was designed by Louis Thibault, a Frenchman. And I actually lived on Louis Thibault Drive in my life. Yeah.
Oh my word.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It was so weird when I saw the name. I'm like, hey, I lived on your street, bruh. He was apparently South Africa's first architect. But I mean, he was French, so was he really...
Was he really South African? Maybe he lived here for long enough that they considered him a South African.
Just a fun fact, some of the buildings he designed are the Granary, Groot Constantia, Koopmans de Wethuis, and the Drosti in Graafrenet. I don't know any of those, I just know that the wine I drink is Drostihof, and I don't know if there's a connection. The cost of the manor must have been enormous because Thebes declared bankruptcy in 1799. So this was built in 1795, 6, and then 3-4 years later he's declaring bankruptcy. So yeah.
You're not managing that money so well, sir.
Yeah. Then the property was purchased in 1802 by Petrus Michiel Ekstein. The Ekstein family were known for their parties and their really well-stocked wine cellars, and I'm jealous. The first Ekstein, or owner, declared insolvent in 1849, but then his brothers took over the estate and the parties. So it seems like everyone who owned this property lost all their money at some point. The property changed hands again in 1883 when it was acquired by the colonial government and was then used as a reformatory. You would think that there'd be a lot of ghost stories about the reformatory, but I didn't find anything. Just terrible. In the 1960s, the building went under extensive restorations and it was declared a national monument under the old NMC legislation on the 8th of September 1961. So now, the hauntings. We go back to the Eksteins. During one of the New York the New Year Eve parties. New York. It's because I was lazy and I abbreviated NYE and now my brain's like New York. So during one of the New Year's Eve parties that the family threw, the Ekstein's son, Frederick, accepted a wager. This wager was either made by his father or someone unknown. I saw 2 different sources. The wager was that he would ride his new show horse up the staircase and into the dining room. Now, I first thought it was like an indoor staircase, but I think it was the staircase on the outside because it was one of the first houses where the stoop was raised. So I think it's one of those with the stairs that go on the outside, like the 2 sides to the thing, because then you'd go into the dining room. So apparently those stairs were really steep. So the guests gathered around and watched to see if the son could do it, and he was on horseback and he mounted the steep steps of the manor house. The horse and the rider circled the dining room table while the guests cheered and laughed. The guests all stood to watch the horse and rider leave, and while he was going down the steep steps, the horse tripped and fell.
No!
So one source said that the slave bell rung to mark midnight, which scared the horse and caused it to trip and fall. I also saw another source that said that the horse had been given alcohol, so he also was a bit... So, I mean, it's now midnight, they've been drinking and partying for ages. So the son broke his neck during the fall, and apparently the horse as well.
Oh no.
And they end up lying dead next to each other on the ground.
First of all, why do you take a horse upstairs?
Surely...
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know, just I wouldn't want to take a horse upstairs because... I would automatically think, how is this going to work to go downstairs?
Yeah, but I assume it's also because, first of all, they were drunk. Yeah. Second, they're stupid boys. Yeah. And also, it's a show horse, so maybe they thought, it's good at obstacles and things. But it's a new show horse, so I don't know. So the horse couldn't get down the stairs without falling, and so they both died. So it's been reported that the horse and the rider's ghosts are still seen around the property. On some New Year's Eves, they are said to try to repeat the act. So people have seen a horse and the guy on there going up and down the stairs or whatever.
Want to do that. Maybe they can go down now.
Yeah.
Probably not, because they're just probably stuck in a loop, which is sad.
Well, one of the sources said that it's one of the first reports in South Africa of residual haunting. So they are kind of just repeating the same thing over and over, which is really sad. That energy gets stuck like that. Well, I mean, it was a really tragic and sudden death.
Yeah, maybe.
Other reported occurrences include laughter and horse neighing coming from inside the manor house, which I would not want to hear. Imagine you're just there and all of a sudden you just hear laughter.
Oh, neigh.
No, neigh.
In the house.
Yeah.
If you don't have horses.
Yeah. No, that's In the early hours of the mornings, forestry workers reported hearing a horse at full gallop along the road. And then apparently they saw the ghost horse going up the stairs and stuff. Apparently that's the main ghost that haunts there, but it's one of the most... Oh, not the most. It's one of the well-known hauntings. Like if you search South African hauntings, this comes up in almost every top 8 list or whatever.
So it's seen quite frequently, obviously.
Yeah, it's one of the most haunted places in South Africa, apparently.
And that's not far from here.
Yeah, no,
Tokai.
Tokai is very close.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's very short, but it had to do with wine, and there were ghosts. So it's fine. It's such a sad, stupid way to die.
Yeah,
Like,
that is very sad.
and if it was his father that made that wager, then he must have felt extremely bad. Unless he hated his son.
Yeah, can you imagine? Well.
Yeah, on that weird note.
You can find us on Instagram at Law and Omen and on Facebook at Law and Omen. You can find us on email info@lawandOmen.
info@lawandOmen.com. And our website is lawandOmen.com.
Yeehaw! I didn't know what other Texan word to use. I'm scared my drawl isn't that good. Why do we always devolve into an American accent? It's not always the same one, but it's always America.
They're so fun, aren't they? And it's also what we consume most of our
True,
media
I
is
think,
just American.
yeah, American. Anyway, if you have any stories, you can email us. If you have any corrections,
suggestions,
you can email us suggestions.
Praise, criticism, I suppose. So what would you criticize?
Now someone that heard just that bit is now specifically going to listen to this and then, well, here's my criticism.
You know what? Feedback is great.
Yes.
And tell everybody else about how terrible we are so that they can listen to us too.
And be the judge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, share.
Please.
Follow.
Rate
and
review.
Yeah. And we'll see you or talk to your ear holes next week.
Yeah, bye. Nothing to say to that.
Love you, bye.
Bye.